right, what is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 1168 of the Future Award-winning Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you so much for watching, for listening. However you are consuming this, we do appreciate you. Big shout out to our sponsors, Sunny Reds, Imperial Pizza. Big shout out to both of them. Make sure you get out, support them. They support this show. They've been really good to us, and they are a really good place to go check out. So make sure you go and give them your business. All right, folks, midweek episode coming off a bye. The Buffalo Bills return to action this Sunday against the Carolina Panthers. As usual for this midweek episode, I'm joined by my good friend over at SB Nation, Matt Warren. What's up, buddy? How you doing, man?
Oh, you know, everything's good. Everything's fine. We're all fine here.
It's been an interesting 10 days, 14 days with the Bills. I am a little bit taken back by response from a lot of fans. And it's not just a tiny little loud, small minority. It feels there is a lot of people, Matt, that are if they're not in full panic mode right now, they're certainly concerned. You would think this team literally was 2-4 and not 4-2 as a return from this bye. Are you getting that sense? I certainly have.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm getting a lot of like the Patriots are really good vibes too. And so like people are like nervous that the Bills aren't going to win the AFC East. And I think that's playing into it. When we thought that the AFC East was tripping over each other all the time, it was like, oh, well, they can just pull it together. But now, like, I've got people messaging me that the Patriots might run the table until like, you know, the end of December before they lose. And I'm like, I mean, the same team that lost to the Raiders 3 weeks ago and barely beat the Saints. Like, I don't necessarily see the Patriots as some like, I don't know, dominant force. And I certainly don't think that the Bills are going to keep falling flat on their face for, you know, multiple games in a row.
I agree. I agree with almost everything you said. What I will say is that I do think the Patriots with a veteran coach like Vrabel and an emerging talent in Drake May, I do think it might not always be pretty. The Bills are winning ugly. Three of their 4 wins have been relatively ugly this year. They'll find ways to win. They'll find ways to win. They're going to be in this race is what I'm telling you.
Oh yeah.
It is a race. It's not I don't think the panic meter should be at 8, but I also don't think it should be at 0 either. I think the Patriots are formidable.
Yeah. I don't think the Bills need to run the table to win the AFC East. And there's some people that are talking like that. And I'm just that's crazy. Come on.
That part of it is crazy. And you know what else is crazy is even if you take the Atlanta loss and throw it in the garbage, that Patriots game, everything the Bills could possibly do to lose that game, they did. 3 turnovers, they lose by a field goal or whatever. And it's funny because if the Bills don't blow that game, and they did blow that game, and it's okay. Sometimes they're on the other end of it. I thought Baltimore blew the game in week 1. You can make an argument that Miami kind of blew that game a little bit in week 3 as well. But if the Bills win that game, the AFC East race is almost over after 5 weeks. And now all of a sudden, potentially the Bills are going to be in a very significant fight to win this division. So it's going to be interesting starting this week. And what I want to do with Matt is what we've done all season long, even though there's not a game. So each week after a game, Matt and I go through the Bills positionally. We'll talk about that position a little bit. And ultimately, Matt will assign a grade for that specific game. There's no game this past week. So what we're going to do is kind of have a little bit of the same, a talk positionally, and ultimately Matt will assign a grade through 6 games so far for this season. And I do want to say too, a couple of these positions we're going to just gloss over because there's just not really too much to say. And it's not that they're not nuanced like some of the other positions. It's just that, like I said, they really don't need to have as much time devoted to them. So that's what we're doing today. And let's start right away here. Quarterback, Josh Allen, 122 for 178, 1,397 yards, 11 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He's been sacked 12 times. He's rushed 46 times for 254 yards and 3 touchdowns. I looked at his pace after 6 games. He is statistically in most categories actually as good or a little bit better than he was a year ago, believe it or not.
He's very good at football.
Yes, he is. However, he is on pace for 11 interceptions this year, and he only threw 6 last year. But total touchdowns, he's on pace for 40 total touchdowns right now, which is what he did last year. He's on pace for 3,958 passing yards, which is about 200 more yards than he threw for last year. 31 touchdown passes. He threw for 28 last year. 720 rushing yards he's on pace for right now. 531 was what he ran for last year. So you look at that and you're like, well, statistically, Josh Allen perfectly fine, but there's been some issues, especially of late. A couple ugly turnovers, kind of like 2021, 2022 Josh in a way. Holding the ball a little bit longer, which is not always his fault, of course, but and you could also look at the stats and say, and here's a fun fact for you. 15.8% of his total yards this season were in one quarter against the Baltimore Ravens. That's wild. But anyway, I'll turn it over to you. What are your thoughts 6 weeks in with Josh Allen?
Sure, I have him as an A-. I think that his, like you went through all of his stats. I think all of his stats are great except for the turnover stats, and that's what dropped him from an A+ down to an A-. You didn't mention his sacks. He's taken more sacks than normal too. You did mention like he's been holding on to the ball longer. He's pressing and turning the ball over. We've seen this before in stretches from Josh Allen when he doesn't feel fully comfortable in the offense or fully comfortable with his receivers. And I think both of those are going to keep popping up the rest of the season. Even if the Bills do make a trade for a receiver, which I don't anticipate anymore right now. But just because I thought they would have done it earlier, but even if they do trade for a wide receiver, it's not like he's going to develop instant chemistry with that person. And so I think it's going to keep popping up the rest of the season where Allen's going to have to really focus on settling into what the defense gives him. And he did that really, really well in the first 4 weeks of the season, not so much the last 2 weeks. And we just have to get back to that. Like he was visibly frustrated on the sideline against the Falcons. And I mean, I know he like fell on the sword in the post game, which, Tua
He always does.
and Tua can take some words from, but like he's still doing everything that he's supposed to, but like you can just tell he's frustrated doing it now, which isn't always the case.
Agreed, 100%. One other stat, speaking of sacks, he's been sacked this season on 6.25% of his dropbacks, which is not a high number, but
It's high for
last year it was 2.62. So more than double this year than last year. Now that's a combination of the offensive line here and there, receivers not getting open, and Josh a couple times holding the ball a little bit too long and not being decisive enough. So there's that. There's also I guess I'll say growing school of thought. I hate it, and I couldn't agree less, but that he seems a little like the fire's not burning quite as hot for Josh Allen this year, according to some people. Some people, and I will call out one guy, Jay Skursky. I'm calling him out. He's my guy and one of my favorites. But he was on. I was listening to his podcast. He was on Go Long with Tyler Dunn today. Today being Tuesday, as we're recording this. Which, by the way, we're recording this Tuesday afternoon. So if anything happens crazy on Tuesday, that's why we're not talking about it today, like a trade or something like that. And Jay was kind of a little bit critical of that, the comments that he said on that ESPN interview about, more than being just a football player and all that. Jay was kind of in the school camp that the timing wasn't great with that statement.
Okay.
I still don't agree with Jay, and I don't agree with anybody who feels that way, but I will say that school of thought is growing. I'm hearing it more and more and more. What do you think?
I agree with Jay about the timing of it. The timing really sucks, just based on the last couple weeks, and to have him come out with those comments, maybe not. I don't know. The timing's not great. I don't think that I see that from Josh Allen either when he's on the field. I doubt nobody said anything like that during training camp. Nobody said anything like that during the preseason or obviously the preseason, but like during the regular season. Like I just. The man has always had a life outside of football. He's like, there was a freaking, building that had his face on it in Buffalo last year, and he still went out and won the MVP. So I mean, maybe it's, he's not as vocally fired up because he won the MVP last year, because he has, a new wife or anything like that. But like,
And a million commercials and yada, yada, yada,
like
yada.
I mean, people said the same thing about Mahomes and a lot of other people in the past. And I don't see that as being a big distraction, because like it's not like you spend 24 hours a day trying to be the best quarterback in the world. Like you have other things in your life, no matter, who you are or where you are in your career. And it's just like, I don't know. I just think I don't want to say it's a lazy take, because I don't think what Jay said is wrong. I think the timing was bad, but I think actually saying that Josh Allen has like lost a step because he got married is kind of lazy.
I will say this, isn't it not possible that maybe the guy's just not playing that well? Guess what? In the history of sports, Michael Jordan, Babe Ruth, I don't care, name a sport, name a player, they go through ebbs and flows and they're not always at their best. So Josh Allen, even if you want to put it on him, and I think if you watch the film, he deserves some criticism. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. I mean, there's receivers not getting open. There's some bad play calls. There's some bad decisions by Josh. Some of the recent offensive struggles definitely need to be on Josh, but it's not all his fault. But anyway, it's 2 games and we're 6 games into a season. So, I don't know. Maybe if the Bills, maybe I will change my mindset. Like if the Bills lose in the wild card round to the Patriots or the Broncos or it doesn't matter who the team is, and we hear from Josh 48 hours afterwards, and it sounds like he's already over it. Like, hey, I still got a beautiful wife and life's more than football and yada, yada, yada. Maybe then I'll take a little bit of an exception to it, because I feel like he's such a competitor that it would eat away at him, and maybe it still will. But maybe if he's saying those things immediately after a playoff loss, like if he's at the podium in Orchard Park, kind of saying, oh, well, we gave it our best, shucks, maybe then I'll be a little bit annoyed. But right now, it's just ridiculous to me for people to think that.
To be clear,
mm.
You're talking about him being at the podium. It's not like he said those comments about life outside of football from the podium after a game. Like it was in a sit-down interview with ESPN.
Right.
Like it was airing on Monday Night Countdown, right? Isn't that where it came from?
Yeah.
So like it's just a completely different environment anyway. So it's like, I don't know. The dude sure looks like he's trying his hardest out there. It looks like he's pressing and throwing frustrated passes. And that has nothing to do with the silicone ring on his left finger. I think that's, I think
Agreed.
It's not right. Yeah.
Agreed 100%. I want to let everybody know too, by the way, this episode in part is brought to you by Sunny Reds. 20 wings, large pizza, $45 right now, day or night, whenever they're open, dine in, take out, however you want it. Some of the best food, and that is a crazy deal in this economy. So Sunny Reds, 1841 Abbott Road. Make sure you get out there and check them out. All right, running backs, dude. James Cook has looked really good this season. I've made the argument. I think he's been the most consistently good player on the Bills this season, and that includes Josh Allen.
Yep.
537 rushing yards, which puts him on pace through 6 games for 1,522. He's averaging 5 yards per carry. He scored 5 touchdowns, only 12 catches for 89 yards in the passing game. I hate that for us. That does not make me happy at all. And speaking of, Ty Johnson, 11 carries for 58 yards. I don't care about that, but 2 catches for 7 yards. I hate that for us as well. Ray Davis looked like he didn't belong in the NFL, honestly, the first couple games. Just every time he touched the ball, a bad thing happened. Or I shouldn't say a bad thing, but not a good thing anyway. However, we saw what Ray Davis can be in that last game in Atlanta. He can be a weapon. He did have a nice catch for a touchdown. All in all, uneventful start for him. A dreadful usage of Ty Johnson. James Cook ain't getting enough touches, I feel like, the last couple of weeks anyway, but he's been really good. What's your evaluation of the running back room?
I have them as an A-. I mean, James Cook on his own is probably an A+. You even mentioned Ty Johnson's rushes. He's got 11 for 58 yards. So even he's averaging more than 5 yards a carry. Like,
yeah.
I mean, the Bills' numbers at running back are very, very good. I think the way you grade the running backs in this particular situation comes down to whether you're grading usage or whether you're grading the players. Because I think they've delivered in every aspect outside of maybe Ty Johnson in the 2-minute drill, the 2-minute offense, instead of James Cook. And so like an A minus, I think is really reflective of how well they've played. But like, if you want to put usage in there, like, I think that's going to drop at least a letter grade, but that's not really on them. That's more on Joe Brady.
Yeah, I gotta say this for the coaches section.
Yeah.
I think Cook's had 17 and 15 touches, like there's something like that the last 2 games. It's just he's too good. It's not enough. Passing, yeah. What they're I have no issue with the running back either. Like again, everything I said is about scheming and play design and coordinating, and it's not really their fault. My issue, if I've had one, like I just said a few minutes ago, I thought Ray Davis just did not look good. Like the juice has been missing from Ray Davis. However, maybe he found it in that last game because that was a nice touchdown play that he had.
And I think Ty Johnson's numbers, like per rush numbers, are fine, but I just think he looks like he's lost a step out there too. And like, I mean, I know they decided to run it back this year with, the running back room, but that might not have been the best decision. So we'll see.
Agreed. Let's move on because I want to save some time definitely for the coaching because I think that's a very important part. This is an intriguing situation with the wide receivers.
I agree.
So, yes. And I kind of agree with you. Let me ask you this before we get into what they have right now. Are you of the mindset as we record this? Maybe we'll be wrong by the time people listen to this, but do you think the Bills make a trade for wide receiver?
I did when they entered their bye. I think it's the time to do it would have been a week ago, like mid-October, as opposed to late October. We've seen it with whether it's Kelvin Benjamin or Amari Cooper, that it's tough for wide receivers to acclimate to a team. Like I would love to have Chris Olave here or, the other Saints wide receiver that can, push the ball down the field. But and we're going to get to this when we do grades here. I don't think they're necessarily like in dire circumstances with the wide receiver, but they really could use some juice. I just think they would have done it mid-October instead of late October.
I would love to know some more information on the extent of Josh Palmer's ankle injury before I get into that. I think if Josh Palmer is going to be a 4 to 6 week injury, I think you got to make a trade. I really do. You need somebody kind of sort of like him, and I don't feel like
is Curtis Samuel coming back? Like, I mean, we don't know the extent of any of these injuries.
I wish you followed hockey a little bit more because I'm telling you, he's the Josh Norris of this team, a guy who's talented and can help you, and a guy you count on when he's out there, but a guy that you can't count on to be out there.
Right.
It happened with the Sabres. They invested a lot and they banked on this guy being their top line center, and he didn't even last one full game before he got hurt for the 20 millionth time. Kind of the same deal with him. All right, receivers. Khalil Shakir, 25 catches for 268 yards and 2 touchdowns. If you look at his pace, 71 catches for 759 yards. Okay. Keon, 24 catches for 237 yards. It does need to be noted that he had 8 catches for 112 yards in his first game. He's only had like 125 yards in his last 5 games, which obviously is awful. Josh Palmer, 14 catches for 234 yards. He's averaging 16.7 yards per catch. He can be that big play guy. Elijah Moore, God, I don't know what to think of this guy anymore. He looks great at camp. He looks terrible at camp. He looks good in the game. He looks lousy in the game. 4 catches for 64 yards this season. Tyrell Shavers, a great summer story, a very mediocre regular season, 5 catches for 51 yards. And Curtis Samuel, who cannot stay on the field, unfortunately, 3 catches for 35 yards and a touchdown. I feel like this is a very difficult position to evaluate and grade, but I'm going to see what you say.
Yeah, I mean, I noted that there's no receiver on pace for over 800 yards, but there's also 3 receivers on pace for at least 650 yards, which in theory is like a good thing. Is that good or bad that you have got 3 people that are kind of like mid?
It was good last year, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, but then you add those up and it's like it's not even really like a number 1 receiver with, their running mate kind of yardage. And so like, I do think it's not great. They certainly could be doing better. Again, whether that's scheme or whether that's players, I think it's a mixture of both, especially when you're talking about Keon Coleman, which, he was benched for a series in 1 game because of something that happened off the field. Yeah. So I ended up giving them a C. I do think that there's a lot of room for growth in that room.
Yeah.
whether it's by the people that are already there or somebody new coming in. But I mean, the fact that there are 3 that are consistently performing is a good thing. I just need more from either the 3 of them or one of them.
I got 2 things with this group. Number one, and I feel like this is a minority opinion, I'm okay with this group. But here's the problem. I'm okay with this group when they're together. When they're together, I'm okay with this group. Can I get a game, please, where Shakir, Kincaid, Samuel, and Palmer are all healthy?
No.
Just one. Can I get a game where they're all healthy? Because if you do, I will take that group. I'll take that group. That's your everybody eats mentality. That is, any of those guys can hurt you on any given drive. I like that. I'm not even counting Elijah Moore. I'm over Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore is what he is. Tyrell Shavers is what he is. Okay. That's what they are. NFL players, fine. But I'm talking about guys who can really impact games. I feel like Palmer, Samuel, Kincaid, Shakir, they can. I think they're good enough to. They have a skill set too. The problem is none of those guys remain healthy. Shakir hasn't missed a game, but he missed all the preseason and some camp with that ankle injury. I don't even need to tell you about Curtis Samuel. Josh Palmer hasn't missed games, but he's been he's left the field a lot with trainers throughout the summer, okay? And now the ankle injury, bad timing because it looked like he was about to have a big game in Atlanta. So that sucks. Kincaid missed a game with an oblique. I mean, I get it. Other guys on other teams miss games. The Bills aren't unique in that, but that part is frustrating. In terms of Keon Coleman, I guess it comes down to what is my or what is your or anyone's expectation of him. I just don't think you should have that much expectation. I think the Buffalo Bills have too much expectation for Keon Coleman. Joe Marino, I'm plugging everyone else's podcast. What the hell is going on here, man? But Coach, listen to Locked On Bills. I thought Joe Marino had a great point about Keon Coleman. He leads his team by a lot in snaps and targets. That shouldn't happen. And I agree with Joe. Right. Joe says that shouldn't happen. I couldn't agree more. To me, Keon Coleman is a excellent complementary receiver who'll give you a couple big plays. He should not be getting more targets than anybody else. To me, on a good team, he's your 3rd best wide receiver, but the Bills are trying to force him into being more, I think, than what he is. And I think that's a big mistake.
Yeah, it'd be one thing if he was your safety blanket, kind of big body guy that can move the chains. I know I've talked about him and Josh Reed in the same breath before on this podcast. Like, that's the kind of receiver I saw him as being. And when he was on pace for 800 yards earlier this season, I was pretty happy with those numbers. I really didn't expect him to be 1,000-yard receiver. I could see him touching that or getting close to that, but never did I expect that he was going to be a 1,000-yard receiver. And so when he was on pace for 800 yards earlier, I was like, okay, that's pretty much what I expected from him. When he was drafted, and it just has fallen off so dramatically in the last few weeks. Where in the meantime, he's going 3 for 30 yards. I mean, come on.
Got 125 yards in the last 5 games.
Yeah.
Here's why I arrived with him. He had 8 catches for $112. He looked like A.J. Brown in week 1. He's not A.J. Brown. He's also, and I said this on Twitter, he's also not 2018 washed up Kelvin Benjamin either, just a big body who can't do anything. I feel like he falls somewhere in the middle there. It's the inconsistency. Sometimes when you gamble and you get lucky and you win, people will say, if you're a new gambler and you go to the casino the first time ever and you win, you get lucky. Some people will say that could be the worst thing that ever happens to you because you think it's easy.
Keep going back.
And you keep going back. And before you know it, you're down. And you're down a lot over the course of the long haul. I'm starting to wonder, did Keon Coleman having 8 catches for $112 against Baltimore and looking like a beast in that game? Long term, did that do more harm than good? Because now I feel like he's getting more reps than he should. Now, in fairness, again, receivers keep going out, so it's like, well, what else are you going to do? You're going to play Tyrell Shavers 75% of the snaps? I don't know, but I just think he is. You drafted him high. You don't want to look bad. He was essentially a first-round pick, even though technically he was a second-round pick, and they just want him to be good so desperately. I think at times it's coming to the detriment of this team. Again, if you can get Samuel and Palmer and Shakir and Kincaid, those 4 guys healthy, those are your 4 best pass catchers. Keon Coleman, you can sprinkle in here and there. That's the way I feel, and a lot of people will disagree. Let's get to tight ends real quick. Dalton Kincaid, 20 catches for 287 yards and 3 touchdowns. He's played 49.7% of the snaps, which is the least actually he's played in the first 3 years, but he's been not by far, because he was good his first year. He's been very productive. His yards run per route has been excellent this year. Dawson Knox, 7 catches, 73 yards and a touchdown. Hawes, 4 catches, 54 yards and a touchdown. 5 touchdown catches as a group for the tight ends. What do you got?
Well, I gave the receivers a C. I'm giving the tight ends an A. I've really liked what I've seen from this group this year. Kincaid obviously missed that one game, but he's played really, really well in those other ones. He could get to 1,000 yards receiving if he's the one that takes over as the alpha dog in this offense. He's on pace to get pretty darn close to that and lead the team in receiving yards and in touchdowns. So, I mean, I really like what we've seen from Dalton Kincaid this year. This is what I thought his ceiling was. And so the folks that were saying 1,400 yards and whatever, 12 touchdowns, they were always crazy, but he could get to 1,000. It's not out of the realm of possibility. I like what Hawes has been able to do in that 6th offensive lineman role, quote unquote, 6th offensive lineman. And he's signing Dawson Knox's walking papers right now. He's really proving that they don't need to keep, 1 catch per game for 12 yards out of Dawson Knox for whatever the heck he's going to make next year. So I really do like what the tight end position is doing. Despite that 1 missed game from Kincaid.
Absence makes the heart grow fonder, and
they needed him against the Falcons, man.
Yes, he did not play against Atlanta, and they needed him. So I kind of have a new appreciation for the value of what Dalton Kincaid can bring to this table. Let's finish off the offense before we get to a break.
Okay.
Offensive line. Mm-hmm. All right. They've been pretty good. Again, the yards per rush has been really good. They've run the ball well. Josh Allen's been sacked 12 times, which is, again, that's more than he gave up last year. But I did look it up. I don't have the number exactly in front of me, but I remember offhand the pressure rate is actually a little bit lower than last year. They've remained relatively healthy. Spencer Brown missed 1 game amongst the starters, but that's about it. Offense has looked pretty good. Not exceptional. What's your take on the offensive line?
Yeah, they didn't play great in that loss to the Falcons, so there's probably some recency bias in that. If folks are looking at the offensive line as a whole, RVD had kind of an iffy game subbing in for Spencer Brown.
Mm-hmm.
I think on the whole, they're opening up running lanes and giving Josh Allen plenty of time. So I'm giving them an A-. I think they're doing a pretty good job. And not for nothing, they're still together after all these years. They play so many snaps together that I think they're doing a really nice job. They certainly were dinged up against the Falcons in game and probably heading into the game. And so I fully expect them to come back from this bye and really have, a strong start to the second part of the season.
All right, let's take a real quick break, come back on the other side, and we will get to the defense and coaching. All right, back here with Matt Warren. This episode in part is brought to you by Shop for Vinyl. I'll tell you what, go on Facebook, look up shopforvinyl.com, join that group. They got crazy, crazy deals if you like older vintage albums. You know what? Every day on my podcast, if you watch on the video side, I got a Michael Jackson Thriller album hanging up there in the background. I got that from Shop for Vinyl. Tons, and I mean tons of whack-ass to most people, 70s and 80s cheesy shit that is special to me. So anyway, go check them out. Join that group. They got deals literally every single day. You know what's funny, Matt? We're talking about the offense in the first half of this show. And if I would have said, 1 weekend or before the first week, I should say, Matt Warren's best grade is going to come from the tight end position. Because ultimately that's what it was. Now the grades overall were good. A bunch of A minuses, a C for the receivers. But the A, the lone A was reserved for the tight ends. That's good. That's not an insult. That's a good thing. You got a first round investment there. You got a big contract in Dawson Knox, and you got a guy who's been a very pleasant surprise in Jackson Hawes. Interesting. Let's get to the defensive side of the ball here. And we'll start with defensive tackle, which is, I don't know, kind of sort of straightforward. Ed Oliver's only played 2 games. He's had 2 sacks, 5 tackles for a loss in those 2 games, and a forced fumble, by the way, which the Bills don't beat Baltimore.
Not just a forced fumble on Derek freaking Henry.
On Derrick Henry. Yes, Derrick freaking Henry. Absolutely. Deion Walker, only a half a sack. Who gives a shit, though? 7 tackles for a loss. God, he's been really good. He's played 50% of the snaps, which is probably double what I expected. Now, injuries have dictated some of that as well, of course, but he's probably played double what I expected. And not perfect. You know, a flash player. You can see some stuff on film. He needs to get better and more consistent, but boy, oh boy, some promise there. Daquan Jones, 2 sacks. He's played 63% of the snaps, which is, again, much higher than I anticipated for that guy. Unfortunately, he got hurt during pregame. I mean, come on, man. Anyway, he popped his calf. By the time some people listen to this, we might get a little more information about the extent of some of these injuries or how long they're going to be out. Sean did say last week it was week to week, so it's not nothing minor. We know that much. The rest of the guys, I don't even want to talk about them. They're not worth talking about. Well, you know what TJ Sanders is? He did nothing for the first month, and now he's hurt. I would be careful because it makes it sound like I'm blowing him off as a bust. Absolutely not. But a very slow start to his career. Let's just put it that way. Before the knee injury, who knows if he's even going to be back this season? We'll wait and see on that. But anyway, defensive tackle.
Yeah, we talked earlier about like whether we wanted to ding usage on the players at the running back position or the coaching staff, and do we want to ding the defensive tackles for injuries? You know, because they have like really been injured hard.
Yes.
Deion Walker, Ed Oliver, and Daquan Jones, when they're on the field, have played really, really well.
Yeah.
The problem is that they've played a combined 13 of the 18 games with only 1 game with Oliver and Jones together. Like, I mean, just as we thought we were going to get Oliver and Jones lining up next to each other again.
Yeah.
He gets
with Walker as the third tackle. I was excited about that.
Right. And so, like, I mean, do I want to ding them for that? Like, not really. Like, I mean, it's not like something that they can necessarily control, but at the same time, it matters. Like, so like, you know, Dwayne Carter, we didn't mention him. He's out for the season because of an injury. TJ Sanders is hurt now. You know, I mean, they got Olujari coming back, which again, like something else that they've been missing from their rotation, which, you know, they've really needed this depth and it's going to continue to be tested going forward. So it's probably a good thing that they had this, you know, overabundance of defensive tackles, but I'm going to give a little spoiler alert for the rest of the episode. I'm giving the defensive tackles a B- because I'm not dinging them too hard for the injuries. And that's the highest grade I'm giving to a defensive group. So there you go.
Okay. B-, the highest grade. All right. We're going to start cooking. Let Matt cook. You know, what's funny. Before week 1, I thought there was an excellent chance that if this unit played well and stayed healthy, that Larry Ogunjobi would never see a down for the Buffalo Bills.
I agree. Yeah.
100%. I'm like, you got Daquan and Ed, you got Sanders and Walker. Hell, you even got Dwayne Carter. And even after he went down, I'm like, you got your 4. I'm like, I'm not sure that Larry Ogunjobi's going to see the field. Suddenly, Larry Ogunjobi is going to be a welcomed addition to this group for the time being. He's probably going to be that 3rd best defensive tackle behind Deion Walker and Ed Oliver. You said B-. Yeah, I'm with you there, man. Deion Walker is the most promising rookie in this class to this point, which is good. All right, let's get to edge. Greg Rousseau, 1.5 sacks. To me, I can't get past that. That just really disappoints me. I know he's played better recently. Has 13 pressures, 2 tackles for a loss. That's not great either. Sometimes stats don't tell the story with him. I used to hear that shit every year with Jerry Hughes too. Give me a sack at times. Do something. I need you to get the quarterback to the ground. Anyway, 1.5 sacks for him. Joey Bosa, 2 sacks. 21 pressures, which leads the team. 4 forced fumbles, which is really impressive, but that was in the first, I think 3 games. He was really good early on. I feel like he's kind of slowed down a little bit recently. AJ Epinesta's got a sack and a half, 23 pressures or 13 pressures, something like that. He's been pretty good. Javon Sullivan, an uneventful, disappointing, and for me anyway, seeing that he was in my bold prediction before training camp, actually. Said he was going to have 6 to 8 sacks. He's got one. Landon Jackson, he's just played sparingly the last couple games. Still kind of feels almost red shirtish
Yeah.
to me. Defensive edge, Matt.
Yeah, I gave them a C. They're 23rd in pass rush win rate, so C is probably generous. They were giving up the edge a lot, especially in that Ravens game. We talked about that a lot. Um, you know, Ed Oliver's played in 2 games and he has the same number of sacks as the team leader from the defensive end position.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, at least Jerry Hughes was impacting the play all the time when he wasn't getting sacks because they were moving it to the other side. And I just don't see that from these pass rushers. So the 3-man rotation's been disappointing. They desperately need Michael Hoyt to come in and make a difference now that he's back from suspension. So I give them a C, and hoping that they're just kind of biding their time for a really important playoff push.
I think Michael Hoyt coming back could be a boost. I also think that people who are already angry at this rookie class, which in fairness, Strong and Max being hurt and Sanders, the first 2 picks, and Dorian Strong, who started week 1, are hurt. Landon Jackson, if you were hoping to see something from him in the second half, I highly doubt you're going to. I don't even think he's going to be active much, if at all. So it depends on how you look at it from that aspect. I got to tell you, Greg Rizzo is one of a few guys to me that's really escaped. Now, he's played better of late. I will say that. The last, ironically, in their 2 losses, I think has been his best 2 games maybe this season. But, yeah, man, the money he's getting and what the expectation I feel like was for him. And you get Joey Bosa on the other side. You have Von Miller before that. Kind of running out of excuses. At some point, you got to say this guy's a good but not great player. That's where I'm arriving at with Greg Rizzo. He was paid more than good money. I don't think he was paid top tier, elite defensive edge money. So let's not get too crazy. But, man, I just kind of feel like you can go get a guy for 8 to 10 million who does what Greg Rizzo does right now. That's just how I feel, which kind of a separate conversation comes down to Brandon Beane and how does he put too much stock into his own guys, his own core. Well, we'll see a little bit down the road. But you said C?
Yeah, I give him a C. And I agree with you on the Landon Jackson piece. Like, it's disappointing. Yeah.
It is. And you know what's disappointing is that you said a B- and a C. And the front 4, to me anyway, maybe you disagree, I don't think you do, has been the strength of the Bills' defense so far this season. So that's not good. And that brings us to linebacker. And I'll tell you what, every other position, I've run down numbers and stats. I didn't do any of that for linebacker. I'm going to write to you, man. Linebackers.
Outside of Shaq Thompson, every one of them has been disappointing this year in some way, shape, or form. And we thought Shaq Thompson might get cut at the end of August. So that might tell you what you need to know about training camp in the preseason. Bernard has been just a guy. Milano has been hurt again a bunch. Dorian Williams has regressed a little bit. I just don't see, outside of maybe a couple splash plays from the season, the consistency from the linebackers I need to see. And you have to wonder how much of it is they're trying to cover for other areas of the field, because we know this linebacker group is good and can do good things, but are they trying to do stuff for the cornerbacks or for the safeties, getting, too spread out, getting too deep in their dropbacks, whatever it happens to be, as a symptom of a larger problem with the defense? Or is it something with the linebackers? And we're going to talk about with Taron Johnson when we get to the cornerbacks too. It feels like the whole back end of the defense is just trying to compensate for deficiencies, in the rest of the back 7.
Fair. Grade?
C-.
I'm actually going to go a tiny bit lower. I'm going to go, I think it's been a D. I really do. Dorian Williams has regressed. Shaq Thompson's been their best performing linebacker over the last month. That's not good. That's not the way things should be. Matt Milano, the injuries, I am going to ding him a little bit. Dude can't stay healthy, man. It's, he gets back. He starts the season. He hurts his pec. He gets back. He looks pretty decent for a half, and he hurts his pec in the end of the first half of the only game that he's come back. Who knows? He was day-to-day before the bye. You're going to see him again. He's not on IR. We'll see. Can he hold up? I doubt it. He's been okay when he's been out there. I think Jerome Bernard, calling him all... I'm at the point with Jerome Bernard right now, and I think things could change. Give me a couple impact plays. He had the 2 interception. Outside of that, though, a pass rush maybe. Give me a few impact plays, and I'll back down. I'll stand down. But right now, I don't even think he's just another guy. I think he's a detriment to the defense. I think he is one of 2 or 3 guys on this defense that is quite literally a detriment to this defense. He's not hitting the right gaps. He's getting swallowed up in blocks. He's guessing wrong. He's missing tackles. He's looked putrid in pass coverage and zone coverage. He's looked lost. He doesn't know what's behind him, it feels like at times. So I think saying he's just another guy is actually almost letting him off the hook a little bit. I think he's been one of the worst, maybe disappointing three players, I should say, on this football team. And one or two of them might come up on this next position as well. Cornerback, Christian Benford. Let's start here.
Yeah.
He's taken an undisputed step back this season. Any way you look at it, whether you look at stats or whether you don't, it doesn't matter. I did look up stats, though. Per ESPN Next Gen Stats, he's allowing a 121.1 passer rating against him when targeted this year. Last year it was like 92. So, I mean, that's a big difference. He's allowed 4 touchdowns this year. He allowed 4 touchdowns all of last season. Teams are going after him now. It's not like, hey, stay away from Benford. We're just only going to go after Trey or whatever. So he's not played that well. Has he been awful? No. Has he been the best player in the secondary? Yes. Is that saying a lot? No. So I don't, he's just, you're talking about just another guy. He's been just another guy. Trey White, to me, is what we thought he would be. He looks foolish at times out there. Makes a couple nice plays, though. I think he's been a little bit better in run support than I expected, minus that Saints game where he had no interest in having anything to do with Miller on that touchdown run. But again, he is what I thought he was going to be. I don't think he'd be a starter right now if Dorian Strong didn't get hurt. I think Strong would be the starter. Teron Johnson, he's been just another guy. Where's the impactful plays from him that you're willing to run a base nickel most of the time and have him out there and be smaller? Because, the guy just made so many plays. I'm not seeing any of that from him this year. The one thing I will say with corner, though, a little unfairness, Max and Strong both being hurt is
it hurts.
it's a little unfair because I think one for sure, and maybe both of them would have a role on this team right now if they were healthy. But anyway, corner, what do you got?
Yeah, I think everything you said was fair. It's interesting when Trey White was signed, this is what we thought he was going to play like. And then he had a pretty good camp, I thought, and expectations grew because of that. And now he's playing like we would have expected when they signed him. And so, again, expectations fuel stuff more than anything else sometimes. And Taron Johnson, we had high expectations for, and he's missed tackles. He's taken poor angles. Like, it's just not been a good season for him. I do wonder if it's Dane Jackson time already in week 8 here now coming up, which
God, I hope not.
There's no interceptions from a cornerback this year. And then multiple receivers have abused them, most recently Drake London. So it's like the Falcons were without their second and third wide receivers, and they still let Drake London just absolutely demolish them. So again, scheme versus players. We can talk about that later. So I gave them a D+. Every one of them has underperformed except for Dorian Strong, and he got hurt. So it's hard to give them a grade that's any higher than that, I think.
I agree. I think that's a very fair grade. And God, I say this, go back to camp and just how deceiving training camp ultimately can end up being. Because there's two things I keep thinking of that I can't stop thinking about. One on each side of the football. Keon Coleman just looking unstoppable. And I saw a tweet. I can't remember who it was, but somebody tweeted out, well, I guess that's what happens when you're going against the Bills secondary every day at training camp. You're going to look like a beast. Kind of funny, but maybe it's a little bit true because, again, it was the summer of Keon at Bills training camp. He was probably the offensive MVP of training camp. And then I go to Trey White and how good and sticky he looked at corner. And you just said it. The expectations, I feel like they were set a little too high for him based on what we saw this summer. But when you're spending time, on the KJ Hamlers and the Steven Gosnells of the world, no disrespect to them, and guys along those lines, and sometimes Keon too, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. Training camp was a farce. Let's just put it that way with a lot of what we saw. Speaking of a farce, let's talk safety here because what is up, Taylor Rapp, man? I'm talking about you, dude. I thought he was a good signing. I thought he was a good signing 2 years ago. I thought he was relatively decent last year. When he was hurt last year, I thought that was a blow to the defense. I don't root for anyone to get hurt, and I'm not going to start now. but I will say that a Taylor Rapp injury could be an opportunity for somebody else right now. And I think the Bills could use a fresh look at safety. That's the way I will say that. Taylor Rapp has been an absolute unmitigated disaster this year. He's looked like a robot out there. I don't know what it is. I don't know. Maybe some of that's coaching. Hey, you got to be in this spot. You don't trust who Bishop next to you. I don't know. But it just looks like he's not playing with zero instinct whatsoever. He's been awful this year. Cole Bishop has not been much better. By the way, those two combined him with 7 tackles in that Atlanta game, 2 safeties. Your last line of defense missing 7 tackles is not very freaking good, dude.
Not great.
Yeah. So Bishop's made a couple plays, but I still think he is struggling as well. I likened it on Twitter because we got it so used, and we've talked about this before, the Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde combo, getting spoiled all those years, taking it for granted. And then I likened it to all the years of Jim Kelly. You get Jim for all those years, and next thing you know, you got Todd Collins and you got Alex Van Pelt as your starting quarterbacks. That's how I feel right now about the safety position. Jordan Poyer played sparingly in the Atlanta game, his first action of the year. He was fine. He made a nice shoestring tackle. I think he's better than Taylor Rapp. That's not saying much, though. And then you know how I feel about Jordan Hancock. It should be Jordan Hancock time to give him a look. It really bothers me. I don't want to go on a rant, so I won't. Safety position, you.
D plus. I'm not as down on them as some people, namely Pat Moran, but like I do still think that they're trying to make up for some of the problems that are happening in the linebacker core and in the cornerbacks position. So that could lead to some of that Taylor Rapp confusion that you're seeing as they're trying to, maneuver. Like they should have been bracketing Drake London in that game against the Falcons. That's not a safety position problem. It's a safety coaching problem again. And so like, yeah, they missed 7 tackles. That's a safety player problem. Like they're certainly not playing well, but I do think that there's ways to put them in more advantageous situations. And so I'm giving them a D plus instead of an F.
Going to back to that Atlanta game, I will say this, and this is more coaching than the player. Christian Bedford should have say, hey, Drake London is the one guy who's going to kill us. Well, he's going to cook my best corner. Then the guy I gave $19 million a year to, I'm going to put him on him every snap. Instead, they're playing soft zone coverages with a lost Bernard and what the hell's going on, Taylor Rapp, just getting in between those two. Candy from a baby. That's what that game was. All right, special teams. Prater, 10 of 11 on field goals. He had one shank, but besides that, 4 for 4 from 40 yards or more, 1 from 1 for 50. Perfect 17 for 17 on extra points. 3 punters already this year. 39.5 net. I had to look that up. 8 of their 19 punts have been inside the 20. That's actually pretty decent. Return game, nothing special. Codgerton's been scratched a few times. He's not really done anything this year. Coverage, I don't know. What do you think? Special teams?
I think Matt Prater was a really good in-season signing.
Yes.
I think the punter position is crappy, but I don't really need great punters with the way I like playing football anyway. Like where's Tyler Bass? Like what the hell is going on, man? Like we haven't heard anything about it since way back in the preseason. Like didn't he kick in that last preseason game? Like he
got hurt and he got re-injured and he had the pelvic soreness injury officially. Yes. And then, he kicked and he missed one and he got hurt. Re-injured, I guess. He's been on IR. Says haven't heard anything about a practice window as is this recorded anyway, opening for him.
That's if we're grading Prater, I think he's done a really nice job. If we're wondering where the hell Tyler Bass is, I don't know, man. So I give him a C overall. I don't think they've been detrimental to the team, but I do think the punting situation is worse than some of those numbers indicated. Inside the 20 when you're punting from the 40. And, they kick it out at the 15, like you got net 25 yards on it. And then I think Shaq Thompson got a penalty on the play to boot, no pun intended. And so I don't know. The special teams have been kind of lackluster this season. Not really anything to write home about.
What you said, you said C plus or C?
Just a regular C for them.
Who was the punter who got almost destroyed, who got killed? Johnston was the punter. I'm going to go C plus only because of the one play where he came out in the knee brace and held for the extra point. I
That
thought
was
that
just what
was
hurt his ankle, right? Didn't they say that? Like, come on.
yeah. So that was some Hulk Hogan hulking up shit. I love that, man. So I'll give
Okay,
him a C
that's
plus
fair.
just based on that. All right, last thing here, and obviously very important is coaching. I I don't even know how to phrase this. All right, so the team's 4-2. That's good. They beat Baltimore. They exercised. Well, I don't want to say they exercised that demon because they've beaten them other times too. So they're 4-2. They haven't fallen off. That's the good. Offensively, they've had their moments, but they've had their moments both ways. I think defensively, God, it's so tough because man, like the defense was awful in the first half against Atlanta, but they should have won the game. The defense played well enough that they should have won the game. The New England game, kind of the same deal. They had enough stops in the New England game that if the Bills offense does something, they win the game. So they've done their job at times. The takeaways aren't there. The sacks really haven't been there much. Schemes, undisciplined penalties, you could ding them for that. The offensive coordinator is probably what I have the biggest issue with, the lack of James Cook touches, the lack of getting the running backs involved in the passing game, lots of things. This is a very nuanced topic here when the coaching, because you're talking about three coaches basically doing three different things. But I don't know. How do you kind of summarize? What have been your thoughts and ultimately your grade when it comes to coaching?
Yeah, I'm of the opinion that I don't think anyone should have been fired over the bye week, where I know that there were a lot of folks calling for either Bobby Babich to lose his play calling sheet to Sean McDermott or Joe Brady to lose his job as offense coordinator. I think that they're doing an acceptable job, and they're both growing into their roles that they haven't had for very long. I'm okay with growing pains. Growth isn't linear. We always talk about that with quarterbacks. Like, there's always a setback or two here and there. I'm giving them a C minus for the season to date. But I expect some growth. I expect to see changes to how they operate coming off of this bye. Whether it's James Cook in there on the 2-minute drill or the 2-minute offense. Whether it's, getting more open passing lanes for your wide receivers that, clearly you can, like, they have talent. You can scheme this up to work. And we saw it last year. Getting, more free rushers going at the quarterback on defense. I whatever you're going to do with the secondary, like, there needs to be a coaching thing, something that happens in that secondary to settle that down, whether it's a person change, like a personnel change, or it's a scheme change, something like that. So I have hopes because Sean McDermott in the past has shown that he can learn from mistakes. He just keeps making new mistakes over and over again. And that's kind of like, defeats the purpose, but they've shown that they can grow both in the off season and during the season. So I'm pretty hopeful when I'm giving them a C minus that's going to be higher at the end of the year.
I'll say this. So I'll give them a C, and I will say that I don't have a very strong take on coaching right now. However, I will have an exceptionally strong take one way or the other after these next two games. To me, you've had the bye week. You've had a lot of excuses, a lot of injuries that do matter. Mm-hmm. Just a couple things here and there, mistakes. But now you're on a bye, and you've had an opportunity to figure out, well, this has went wrong, and how are we going to fix it? So your first opponent is on the road, a pesky opponent that's won 3 in a row. But that said, you're the better team. Yep. There's no reason to not go to Carolina and beat them. We talk about the Bills beating nobody. Well, Carolina's 3-game winning streak has been Miami, the Jets, and a Dallas team without CeeDee Lamb. So, that's
and they've got Andy Dalton starting this week. Like,
and you're
a backup quarterback. Like, I mean, that's indicative of a bad defense.
And a lot of people are saying, well, that's good for Carolina and bad for Buffalo because they're playing Dalton. But I don't buy that. No. Bryce Young's gotten all the reps. You know what I mean? It's hard for a backup quarterback to come in and excel. Anyway, my whole point was this. It's inexcusable to not beat Carolina. They're not the chumpy pushover you thought they might be in May, where it was going to be like a vacation going to Carolina after the bye. It's not. They're a legitimate competitive football team. They can run the football and got some good players.
Oh yeah.
I'll say that. But the Bills are the better team and they should win. And then the next week is, of course, Kansas City. That's where the bar's set. That's where you judge you evaluate your team. The bar gets set by how you play against Kansas City, as far as I'm concerned anyway. So if they come out, they handle business against those two teams, bam, you're right back on track. You go out and you struggle or even lose to Carolina, and if you don't beat Kansas City in Orchard Park, the panic meter deserves to be very, very high. At that point, it's not hyperbole. It's not fans and media and content creators jumping the gun to be worried or, falling off a cliff, because I think it becomes legit at that point. Offensively, we've talked about it. It's just coming up with different things. Stop being so boringly, commit to running the football more, having James Cook on the field. But when you do throw the ball, just stop being so predictable. If teams are going to blitz you, sneak that running back out there, the quick hot reads, things that are going to beat the defense, blitz beaters. Hopefully Palmer and Samuel will be back. Anyway, and then defensively, I think you got to make a personnel change or two. I really do. I think offensively, if Joe Brady's not stubborn, I think things could change on offense. I think the offense will find its rhythm, and they did it last year. They could do it again, and the personnel is there. I believe in the offense. Defensively, if you play Taylor Rapp and Cole Bishop for the rest of the season, I don't see the results being any different. Ditto for Trey White. Trey White, Cole Bishop, Taylor Rapp, they are what they are. Terrell Bernard could play better. I think he will. Teron Johnson could certainly play better. I think he will. I think Christian Benford can improve, and he will. Greg Rizzo can improve, and I think he will. Hopefully he will anyway. Those guys I'm hopeful for. But that secondary, I just named three of the starting, well, you can count Teron. So three of the starting five in the secondary, you know what they are. You got to do something, whether it's getting Poyer in there, whether it's getting Jordan Hancock a look in there, which I don't have any faith that Sean McDermott would do, whether it's getting Max Harrison out there when he's up to speed and ready to play football. I'm not saying, well, he's a rookie and Trey knows the system and yada, yada, yada. Bullshit. If Max Harrison's good to go, you play him. Simple as that, man. Unless they make a big trade in the secondary, which I doubt it. But the defense needs the personnel changes. The offense just needs to get their shit together. That's why I arrive with coaching.
Yeah. And it's not going to get any easier for them. Like after the Panthers, they've got the Chiefs. Then they play the Dolphins, who are already just a hot dumpster
tank with Tua, not for Tua. It's tank with Tua.
Then it's the Buccaneers, a reeling Texans team, the Steelers, who have looked, very shaky, but their record is very good because they get turnovers. And then maybe Joe Burrow's back for the Bengals. You have got to go into New England and beat Drake May, which you weren't able to do earlier. The Browns, who are really pesky on defense and have that up and coming quarterback.
Good running back. Great running back too. I like that kid a lot.
And then the Eagles, you got the Eagles at the end of this run too. It is not going to be easy to put together a successful resume if you fall to the Panthers after losing to the Falcons. It's important that they go out and have a good showing in this game.
Agreed. I agree 100%. This is a big game against Carolina. You can't lose it. And a win is a win on the road. Sure, it's hard to win in the NFL. I buy all that, but I'm with you, man. Go out there and make a statement and let the league know that you're back and just give more confidence to yourself going into that KC game. Anyway, all right, that's a wrap here for this episode. This was a good one. This was fun. It's interesting. Like I said, so all the grades on the entire football team, it's high on offense, low on defense. But again, the tight ends, that just sticks out to me. I just think back to August, if we would have been doing this, saying that the tight ends have been the best part of this team. And I agree with you, by the way. I don't think you're wrong. I completely agree with you.
It's one of the positions where they have invested a lot. There's a first round pick there, a really big contract, and a fifth rounder that they expected to contribute a little bit and found a role for right away. So they have invested in that position a lot, as opposed to say, I don't know. They've invested a lot in pretty
safety. Cole Bishop's a second rounder, I guess. I don't know, man. But it's frustrating. Anyway, that's going to do it for this episode. Make sure you follow Matt on social media, Blue Sky and Twitter X at Matt Rich Warren. SB Nation, of course, if you're a Bills fan, and you are if you're watching this show, make sure you are checking out Buffalo Rumblings. In fact, you know what? As soon as we're done with this episode, I got to read my girl Sarah Larson and her journey of going all the 100 straight games. I haven't read her last one, 88 consecutive games. We'll talk about that another time, but that's really cool. Anyway, that's up on Buffalo Rumblings. I want to make sure I give that a read. Appreciate you as always, buddy.
Yep. Talk to you soon.
All right, guys, be back. Brand new episode coming.